All right, what's up, everybody? On a Monday evening, if you're watching live on YouTube, on X, hopefully on Instagram. I'm still trying to figure out how to properly stream live on Instagram. But what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. We've had a ton of success here in the last 2 weeks that I've been doing this, and we're over 1,000 subscribers right now, and I'll continue to try to put out some content. I got to do some weekend content. I have booked a huge guest for tomorrow. Herb from Northeast Philly is scheduled to join me, provided that he can, unlike his first appearance on the show, that he can actually figure out his equipment. So we'll likely have Herb on tomorrow or sometime soon. But it is a Monday evening. The 76ers play at 10 p.m. No Joel Embiid again tonight. The knee is still not feeling great. So if you're listening or you're watching right now, that's awesome. But if you're watching this a couple days from Monday, the 29th of what do we got here? Yeah, 29th of January, you're thinking, well, this stuff's already dated. No, but like skip ahead 10, 15 minutes. We'll start talking about some other crap. I have a bunch of other non-sports and sports stuff to talk about here. But I'm not streaming on IG, which I don't understand what's going on. So anyway, I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, so obviously the big Eagles story and the conference championships are what we'll start with. And the Eagles hiring Kellen Moore, I've seen a lot of pushback by it. I'm not doing sports radio anymore, so I haven't heard what the general public, or at least the sports radio public, is saying. Some misconceptions out there about how he doesn't like to run the ball. Mike McCarthy, after he fired him, said that he wants to get back to running the damn ball. Well, they actually ran the ball more in Dallas with Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator than they did with Mike McCarthy. But, I mean, if you have big leads in games and you're running the ball more at the end of games, or if you're coming from behind and you're throwing the ball a lot, I mean, numbers are just numbers. It's really how you arrive at those numbers. And last year, it felt like at a lot of times the Eagles weren't effectively or running the ball enough. So I can't tell you Kellen Moore, and I'm not going to blame him for what happened last year with the Chargers. He wasn't the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator. I didn't watch enough of the games to say, hey, he was the problem. But here's what he is, and here's why I like it. He is a experienced play caller, and that's what the Eagles really needed right now. And there were other names out there, and I'm sure that you could have hired other guys, and I would have probably said something similar. I'm not going to sit here and BS you and tell you that I know everything about Kellen Moore, the play caller. All right. I know that he's experienced, and that's something the Eagles needed at this point. Nick Sirianni, this is no longer his offense. This is not Nick Sirianni's offense anymore. This is Kellen Moore coming in with his offense, which is dangerous because if he has a lot of success and God forbid gets a head coaching job, it's just like having a defensive coordinator or a defensive head coach. Now you're bringing in you're going to have to bring in another offensive coordinator that's going to call the plays. So we learned how difficult it was to move on from Shane Steichen and to try to transition to Brian Johnson. So I give it a thumbs up. It doesn't mean that it's going to work out. Frankly, I'm more concerned about the defense and the personnel on defense because now Vic Fangio is going to solve everything. Remember last year when Jonathan Gannon was the issue and Sean Desai was going to solve everything? That's all they needed. They need a better defensive coordinator. Well, how did that work out? This is personnel. A lot of this is personnel based. So Kellen Moore, I give a thumbs up to. And we'll see what happens. They obviously need a philosophy. They need to be able to run the ball. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. A lot of people checking in here in the comment section. Wanted to thank everybody for watching and subscribing. You can see on the scroll right there, it says shopeverylittledetail.com for custom-made shirts of all types. That's my wife's website and my wife's business. So you can be sure that it's backed up by me to where you're not going to have to worry about anything. She makes great stuff. She's been actually very successful since she started doing it. So just check out the website, shopeverylittledetail.com. She's my lone sponsor on the show. So definitely check it out. shopeverylittledetail.com. And just follow me on all socials at John Marks Media. That is on Instagram. That is on X and or Twitter. That's on a lot of different things. So follow me on there. We'll have some great stuff coming up. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what this is. I don't have a setup in the back. I still don't have I have a green screen, but I'm probably returning it to Amazon. So I'm trying to figure out where in my basement I can actually set this up because I've been invaded by the children and there's really no room at all. So I'm gonna have to move the Lego table and the foosball table over there because there's like a little bit of a room where I can actually set something up and put stuff behind me to make it look official. Um, but yeah, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what this is. I think it's an opportunity for me to do some longer form thing, as opposed to when we do interviews on the radio. It's kind of like you're bringing in somebody for 8 to 10 minutes, and then boom, then you're whacking them off. Boom, you're out, because that's kind of the attention span if you're listening on the radio. When you do podcasts, you do stuff like this, you get an opportunity to maybe do something a little bit longer. So I'd love to have some people in the business that I know, some people maybe even outside of sports, and kind of get their story and talk to them about stuff. I've had Harry Mays on. We did an hour. I had Jamie Lynch on. We did an hour. I'm thinking about asking Mike Missinelli to come on. What do people think about that? Should I ask Mike Missinelli to come on? I think that'd be really, really good. Mike I was a huge fan of him growing up in high school. I remember him when he still wrote in the Inquirer before he was doing radio. MG Missinelli is what he called himself back then. Michael George. And then I got to work with him. I worked with him for 4 years at the Fanatic from 08 to 2012. And we had a very memorable show, and we changed sports radio in this town. And I'm honored. And when I look back at my career and I look at the things that I've been able to accomplish, and obviously the last almost 7 years with Ike is the highlight of my career. And what I look to where I'm like, yeah, like this is where I kind of, like not just made it, but cemented my status as doing sports radio in the city. Started with Mike and what we were able to do on a shitty AM signal, 950 AM. Nobody really listened to the station, and he came aboard. And in a year, we were able to beat Howard and WIP, and then ended up going to the FM, and the rest is history. But yes, I mean, should I ask him? I'd have to put up a poll. I don't think I can do it right here, but he's something I'm thinking about here. Devon Gibbons, now of All City, formerly of the Fanatic, my longtime friend. Actually was going to bring him on last week, but my laptop blew up. And I went to the Apple store and they're like, yeah, it's $400 to fix it. So it's like, what do you do? $400 to fix it. They gave me $205 to trade it in. And then the laptop's like $2,000, which, by the way, I'm financing the whole thing. I don't have any money. So I'm right now, this is the first show that I'm doing for my new my MacBook Pro, which is awesome. So Devon, I had to cancel last week because my laptop blew up. So we're going to get him coming on soon. But again, thanks for everybody for the support. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll continue doing some fun stuff. So we talked about Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio. Yeah, I can sit here and tell you that Vic Fangio is the answer. He's going to be great. I have no freaking clue. All right, Vic Fangio he's the defense that this organization wants them to run. That's what he is. That's what he is. They want him to run the Vic Fangio defense. That's why Sean Desai got hired, because he's a disciple of Vic Fangio, right? So they actually got the guy. They would have hired him last year. Jonathan Gannon kind of screwed him, but they got the guy. And what does that mean? I don't know. If you were expecting a more aggressive and blitzing defense, then I think you're going to be disappointed, because that's not what he does. But here's what I'll say, and here's where I'll think you'll see an immediate impact. If you remember Billy Davis, the defensive coordinator under Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly brought him in. I never heard of him before. And you could tell pretty early on that he wasn't very good. But after Chip was gone and Davis was gone, when Doug didn't even bring him in. Jim Schwartz had the job first. They actually hired Jim Schwartz as DC before Doug got the job. What you saw right away in the first year, and I was never a big Jim Schwartz fan. I think he's kind of douchey. But what you saw the first year was, well, this guy's a huge upgrade over Billy Davis. And he's a bona fide defensive coordinator, experienced defensive coordinator. And look what he did with Cleveland this year. They had a great defense. They also have great personnel. And the Eagles had good personnel too. But he was a legit defensive coordinator, right? And I don't think Sean Desai was. and they don't have the personnel to match it. So Vic Fangio can come in all at once, and I think you're going to see an experienced defensive coordinator that's been through it before, right? But unless you change that personnel, and he brings in, as somebody mentioned, linebackers, as Josh said, better bring in some linebackers. I mean, all right, you expect them to? I mean, they're not changing to a 3-4. This isn't Pittsburgh where you're totally changing your scheme. So, I mean, dude, I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're going to do, but they need corners. I actually like their safeties before Sidney Brown tore his ACL. Damn, I mean, it still stings. It really does. So, and their defensive line, Hassan Reddick's probably going to want a new contract. He won one last year. He had another good season. It's a mess. I even hate thinking about it, about what this defense is going to look like. So, Kellen Moore with the offense. More importantly, what is going on internally? Play calling, I think Kellen Moore will help immensely. It's not just picking a play and saying, let's run this play. He lines up under center more. He was 8th this year in motion. The Eagles were 32nd, 32 out of 32 in motion in their offense. He was 8th with San Diego. So so like I think you're going to see a much better, more professional looking offense, because if anything, when you look internally what was going on with that team last year, I think Jalen Hurts lost all confidence in the play calling in the offense. He looked annoyed most of the time. And I think part of that was because of the offense. A big part of it was because of the offense. Hey, you heard AJ Brown, the team meeting, saying we have to, with the coaches, we have to believe in our coaches more. Well, it's easy to say, but if you don't really believe in them, you can't just make yourself believe in the coaches, especially if they don't know what the hell they're doing. I think anybody that really watched the end of the season saw that nobody really believed in them, and the play calling was just atrocious. So, I mean, so far so good. I mean, I guess they need players. They need personnel. They need players. So let's see what this roster looks like after free agency and then after the draft. And then I'll be willing to talk more about that. But I mean, I think they're still a playoff team. They should still be a playoff team. But when you start 10-1 and you totally fall apart, and you were in the Super Bowl last year, playoffs, schmayoffs, you know what I mean? Playoffs, who cares? That's what I think about that. All right, championship games yesterday or on Sunday, depending on when you're watching this. Let's start with the AFC. I thought that Steve Spagnuolo was the MVP of the game for the Chiefs. Spags, man. And by the way, he has a really good defense. His front is great. And his back four, his defensive backfield, he's got 2 good corners. He's got a good defense. But what he did with Lamar Jackson, and I fault Baltimore a lot for this, Baltimore didn't try to run the ball. And everything that Lamar is good at in the passing game, in particular short to intermediate routes, just wasn't there. They didn't allow it. So he was holding the ball because he didn't have guys open, or he wasn't throwing to tight spots, and the guys just weren't open. So he's trying to take off. Steve Spagnuolo did such an excellent job, and the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, which is pretty amazing, considering that the Ravens only scored 10 points. Now, Lamar takes some blame because he came up small. That was a bad interception that he threw. But I actually loved his reaction after the game. They asked him if he was disappointed, I think, and he said, no, he's angry and he's pissed. He should have been. And I'm glad that he has that he's pissed. He should be pissed. This was an opportunity to wash away and to get all the monkeys off his back. And he did it by getting to the AFC Championship game. Was anybody else surprised that was the first championship game that it was in Baltimore? I know with the Ravens. I know that I knew that the Ravens weren't there. We know they weren't there a long time, but they've been so good for so long. You would have thought at least there would have been one championship game before, but they've lost that divisional round game. The last time they were number 1 seed, they lost the divisional round game. So it was the first time they were there. Lamar's got to get to a Super Bowl. He can't score 10 points. Now, Zay Flowers, bad drop, bad fumble. That could be a different game, but you're going to have turnovers. That stuff's going to happen. Boneheaded penalties. Flowers had one. It kind of just blew up there in the second half, and John Harbaugh's got to take a lot of the blame for that too, as being the head coach. But overall, I was disappointed. I was rooting for the Ravens. I would have liked to see Lamar get another one. But it kind of it's not going to, just when everybody thought this was the year, it's like, Kansas City, their wide receivers can't catch anything. Their offense sucks. That defense is really good, though. And that's what's carried them the entire year. And Scanling, who had a terrible drop in the Eagles game that might have won the game for him. He had an incredible catch to ice the game on that third down. So that's the AFC Championship game. Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes back 4 or 5 years, which is crazy to think. 4 or 5 years. So the NFC Championship game, a lot's being made of Dan Campbell going for it, and rightfully so. So like it got him there, and I heard a lot of people say that it got him there. It got him there. It did, but it doesn't mean that you have to go for it all the time. Situational football matters. Obviously, the score matters and everything else, but you can't just say, well, "This is what's got us here. Let's do it." No, I think anybody watching the game, at least I did, in particular, with the field goal that would have put them up 3 scores. I mean, you take the points. Since when is taking the points a bad thing? Since when is getting 3 points and feeling good about a drive? And sometimes you have a drive and you're like, damn, we needed a touchdown out of that one. I guess. But aren't you stopping some of the momentum by scoring points? Because then you have the next time and it's like, well, we went for it last time. We got to go for it again. And I think you get caught up in that to where you're going for it every time now because you have to go for it every time. So I think the inexperience of Dan Campbell, and I never thought that he's a good in-game coach. But you watch enough Lions games, you see him make mistakes. I love the guy and I love the culture that he sets. But he could have cost his team a shot at the Super Bowl. And I think a more experienced coach wins that game. And it's not easy to get back. And he said it after the game. He owned it and he said it after the game, and he's absolutely right. They're not going to have the same season next year. Jared Goff may not have the same year. Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator is probably not going to be there. We saw in Philly firsthand what it's like to try to replace a coordinator, an offensive coordinator. Just because they have somebody on staff they might want to bring in doesn't mean squat. So you got to take advantage of your opportunities. And that's a good Lions team. They have a lot of good talent. And to go up 24-7 and to lose that game is tough. It's tough. It's rough. So that's the NFC Championship game. I did see this, as Nicholas brings up here. I did see this on social media that it's the whether or not you should have kept Andy Reid. Well, we didn't, and he's in Kansas City. And we did this when he was in the Super Bowl the first time and he won it. I think we did this a couple times, the topic. So, you recycle a lot of topics on sports radio because you have to. But I have no interest in keeping Andy Reid, or I'm happy Andy Reid went to Kansas City and has had a lot of success. I'm not sure he would have done it here. I'm not sure he would have been able to do it here in this organization. Sometimes change is good. I'm a firm believer of that. Change is good. And would he have went to 4 or 5 Super Bowls in Philadelphia if he would have stayed here? No. I don't believe so. He got Pat Mahomes. He has a great defense. Could he have won a Super Bowl in Philly? Okay. All right. But they did win a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson. So I'm not worried about Andy Reid and whether we made a mistake him going or not. It was time for him to move on. Like I said, change is very good. Change is very good. But it doesn't make you feel good going forward with the Eagles at all for next year. I don't think they're not trash, but does anybody out there know what Jalen Hurts is now? Was that a problem with the coaches? Was that a problem with the play calling? Or was that a problem with the league adjusting to Jalen Hurts? And we'll hear that he was banged up, and that's probably what's going to be the story, or at least the propaganda that's put out there, like, he wasn't healthy. This dude has to be able to win with his arm. You're never going to be able to win in this league consistently year after year with doing tush pushes or making plays with your legs. And this is not a criticism of him at all. I think Jalen knows this. He needs to evolve as a quarterback. Hell, he evolved the year they went to the Super Bowl last year. He evolved, right? Like he took those steps. He worked hard. I don't know what the hell happened this year. I don't know what happened in these last 6 games. He gets the benefit of the doubt, but it doesn't mean that you can't be concerned, because I am. I'm concerned. Right? Like, teams defended him differently. That's obvious. And the thing that I'll say is that the coaching staff seemed ill-equipped in a chess match to be able to move the pieces and adjust to what the rest of the league was doing. Because when they got desperate in those last couple games, or when they got desperate last year on offense, you know what they did? They tried to use him as a runner because they had nothing else. And Jalen needs to own some of it too. We all saw the videos that were put out of guys being wide open and Dallas Goedert having a fit on the sidelines of that playoff game. We all saw that. So everybody shares in the blame. But man, I can't believe, I still can't believe we're here right now. It's one thing not to have made the Super Bowl or to have lost to the 49ers or whatever, but to get smoked by the Bucs after starting 10-1 is pretty interesting. And this is where I think Kellen Moore comes in very handy, is that he's an experienced play caller that's seen a lot. And I'm sure that he's already looked at the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and in the interview process probably had a lot to say on what he would do and what he's going to do. So I saw a lot of negative stuff with Kellen Moore, and I'm fine with that. I would just ask who are we hiring other than Kellen Moore? That right? Like I don't know. Eric Bieniemy is still available out there, or Billy Bob Cooter, or Jim Bob Cooter, or whatever his name is. They could have hired a number of guys, and I think that they could have been good hires given the experience level and everything else. So that's that. Also had a so moving on to, I'm trying to do not an hour here tonight, but try to move. So over the weekend, my wife on Saturday, she turned 40. Yeah, happy 40th birthday to my wife. And we had a party at Trouble's End Brewery, which is in Collegeville, right by me. And place is unbelievable. It really is. It was a great time. We had like 60 people there, and she had a lot of fun. So here's a couple some sharing here with the screen. So that's actually, and we are so bad with anything but a selfie. We take selfies together, we can both smile and look good. But anything that's posed, I'm very awkward with photos. So anything that's posed, I always seem to not know what to do with my hand. And here I know what to do with my hand. Just put on her butt. But here's the thing. It wasn't even a pose. I think this is why this picture worked out, because I was sitting there and people were like taking pictures, and there was a band there that sang happy birthday to her. And you can see the candles, I believe, are still there. We just kind of looked up and someone snapped a couple pictures. So it was pure luck that we got this great picture. But there we go. That's earlier. See, I don't know what to do with my hand. You see that? I have my thumb tucked in my back pocket. And I don't like it when they take the picture that's up in the air. It makes me look even shorter. I'm not that short. All right, this was the morning. So you can see with my wife, it's very important. She's not looking for, she's not looking for a diamond tennis bracelet. I mean, I'm sure she would take it if I gave it to her, but with my employment status right now. So she got some good stuff, but I had my girls, I got big poster boards, and they each made a card with that. And then we came up with 40 reasons we love mom. And over the course of a week, we went down the basement, and I'm like, all right, you're going to write out the reasons that we love mom. And I wrote a couple in there too. So that's what that is underneath there. And do I have any more from there? And that's, see how I staged it, everybody? And this is like, I learned from a lot of birthdays where I was like, you know what? Like she's pissed. I didn't take enough time planning in advance. I just tried to do everything last minute, and it shows. So I had the decorations, I had the poster boards, we worked on it, and we're good. Now, do I have any more? All right, so that's the next thing we're talking about here. All right, so happy birthday to my wife, and she is 40 years old, which is nothing. Yeah, that's what I say to people that think 40 is old, are people that are just about to turn 40, or that are younger than 40. Unlike me, it's about to turn. I just turned 47. All right, I also got my hair cut, and I was on here with Black Reid last week. I got my hair cut, so you can see it doesn't look as bad. You can still see the white coming in. Anyway, so an update on the burger bug drama. If you tuned in last week, and again, this was with Black Reid. So long story short, my wife wanted some lunch. She was actually very sick. She had pneumonia last week. So she's like, I need to eat something. It was the first time she was actually like feeling better and wanted to eat. So I'm like, what do you want? So we got a burger. from a burger, a place that only does burgers. I had a lot of people reaching out to me trying to guess what it was, and it was. I'm not gonna bury the place, all right, because that's just not. Even if I was to write a bad review, which I'm not doing now, but even if I did write a review, it would be from my email and it wouldn't be publicized on the air. I would never do that, all right, unless they really deserved it. This place really deserved it. But so we order the burger or whatever, and she gets it. She likes to get it in the lettuce wrap. So sometimes she'll go regular bun, but she gets it in the lettuce wrap. And a bite or two in, and by this point, I think I'm doing dishes or whatever. And I just hear like I don't even know what. I'm like, right away, I'm like, what's wrong? And I walk over, and what do we have here? I believe I have it right here. We can do one more. All right. So that's a bug. There it is. See that right there? Not, I mean, it's not, it's not a cockroach in there, but it's clearly a bug on the lettuce. God knows if she took a bite in the 2 bites that she did take of the lettuce. So, like, my whole thing is that, like, yeah, this stuff does happen. All right, it happens. Fine, it happens. I've worked in restaurants. I've worked in restaurants, worked in bars. I've worked in restaurants. I've taken romaine lettuce out, and there's bugs on it. I mean, it happens to me at home, right? So like, I'll go to the grocery store and I'll come home and there'll be bugs, like just like that bug on the lettuce. So you know what I do? I friggin' return it, or you wash it at the very least. But I would never wash it and then serve it or eat it myself. But at restaurants or at this particular burger place, so what do you do? Right. So I'm like, oh, all right. So I was just gonna go. And she was like, I'm not eating anything from there anyway. So just call. Like, you can take pictures, you can email it to them if they're not gonna like question you or whatever. I'm like, you're right. So I call, and I actually the manager answers, the general manager answers. And I'm not yelling and screaming, I'm not cursing. Like I said, this stuff does happen. And I'm like, hey, and I'm like, yeah, like I just came and picked up a burger and there's a bug in it. And yeah, I just want my money back. So he says, I'm very sorry, sir. We wash our lettuce 2 times and it already comes washed, and we wash it 2 times, but unfortunately, this stuff still happens. So let me just also point this out. There's a 0% chance this lettuce was washed. Everybody agrees with that. This was not washed twice. Sorry, it wasn't. Maybe that's what they're supposed to do, or that's the stock answer. That's the policy. There's no way in the world this was washed twice. So no. It was not washed. All right. So like whatever. All right. Whatever. Like I didn't even argue with him about that. I was just like, yeah. I'm like, it's like, well, can I remake it for you, or would you like some store credit? And I'm like, no, I just really want my money back. And he's like, all right, well, how did you order it? And I'm like, well, I picked it up, but I ordered it online, and it says on the receipt it's a third party biller. It's a third party thing. I didn't order DoorDash, but if you Google this place's name and then Collegeville, the thing that actually comes up, it's not the website, but it's like Google. You can order it, and then Google gets like, I don't know. So it wasn't officially. So I'm like, okay. And then I'm looking at the receipt, and they're saying that I need to talk directly with you. And he's like, well, we don't normally, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but it says here that there's no contact information. That says I have to deal directly with. It says it right here. And the guy's starting to get snippy with me, right? He's like, listen, it's the policy that I can give you store credit or whatever. And I'm like, all right, listen. I'm like, I just picked up lunch for my wife. There's bugs in the lettuce, right? Like, I just want my money back. I don't want store credit. And at that point, he could have said, listen, I understand these things do happen. I want to make this right for you. Double whatever I paid, right? It was like $16 is what we paid. Like, give me a $40 credit. I have the receipt right there. I have everything else, right? So he was like, so he's getting snippy with me. So I say, because I am again not raising my voice, not using profanity, not doing anything like that. I said, listen, if you're not going to give me my money back, let me tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to go on Google, and I'm going to go on Yelp, and I'm going to leave you a bad review, and I'm going to include the pictures, because this isn't right. And he goes nuts on me and snaps and says, you've never worked in a restaurant. These things happen. And I'm like, actually, I grew up working in a restaurant, and I worked in restaurants for many years. And I know this stuff happens. But I also know that you need to take care of me because I just picked up a burger with a bug in it. And he hung up on me. Boom, hung right up on me. The long story short, I went online because there's no, like, literally, you can't even call. Like, I went online and you can't even call this place. I went online, I filled out this thing where it's like, put your email, put your name, put your phone number, and put your problem. And I did it all. It allows you to include images because this probably happens. People complain about their order. So I included images of the bug, of the receipt, and magically they were able to refund my money, which the guy said he couldn't refund it. Magically, they were able to refund it. They didn't include that. He didn't call me or email me or whatever, which honestly, I don't care. I just wanted my money back. And rather easily, they refunded the money. So I'm not going to leave a bad review because that wasn't my intention to do. That was a threat. So they would give me my money back. And I didn't threaten him in the email that I sent or the thing that I sent. I just said I wanted my money back. This is bogus. So there you go. And it's not Shake Shack. So stop trying to guess. It's in Collegeville. I'll just say this. And it's like a chain that you get these burgers very high up in the mountains. That'll be like the one clue that I'll give you. But anyway, so then I got a bunch of I forgot to email this, but I got a bunch of messages from people that were talking about regular things. And see, this is where I really miss doing terrestrial radio. So I would love to give the phone numbers right now because I would have people lined up to be like, this happened to me, that happened to me, right? And I'm not trying to put names of restaurants out there, but it's interesting to everybody, not everybody, but people have stories about food. So my buddy Bobby Bachman out there, he watched the episode and he sent it to me. His wife, I should have sent it and I forgot to do it. His wife ordered, so it's a Chinese restaurant, and ordered some kind of teriyaki sticks. And I'm gonna have to email it right now. And there were maggots in there were maggots in the order. Could you imagine maggots in the order? And he sent me a picture of it. And when she called, and this is my reaction to him, I sent back to him, I go, I bet you they weren't all that helpful at the restaurant when you guys called back. And they wanted her to bring it in. They say, yeah, bring it back, which, I mean, I understand why they would say that, but they were drinking wine at home. It was like a Sunday evening. They were drinking wine at home, and they weren't going to drive after drinking to go show this Chinese restaurant that there were maggots in the food. So, yeah. So I got a bunch of stories like that. A lot of bugs, people that work in restaurants that saw a lot of stuff. I worked in cheesesteak places. I worked in sandwich shops. I worked in hoagie places. I worked in bars. I worked at a restaurant in Hawaii that was right on the beach. I worked in restaurants in the city, and you'll see mice and things like that. I honestly never saw a lot of really nasty stuff working in the restaurants for all those years. I know some people will maybe beg to differ on that, but I never saw a lot of nasty stuff. Everywhere I worked was relatively clean. Now I can't speak to the hygiene of people and things like that, but washing their hands, etc., when they should be. But pretty much everywhere I've worked was pretty clean. So I'll send this, and hopefully we can check this out real fast. But could you imagine getting maggots in with your food? A little like a lettuce bug or whatever that is. I mean, that's not like crazy, but a maggot is much different. So let's see if we can't, if it'll come up here with this. That's another picture too of my wife. That was a good one right there. All right, but anyway, I don't see it, so we should stop worrying about it. All right. So what was the other? A couple more other things here that I wanted to talk about tonight. Well, I brought up Herb, and Herb's gonna Herb said he can do tomorrow night. We'll have to see exactly what's going on with that. But yeah. Well, there you go. So how's everybody doing? How's everybody's weekend? I'll throw it out there to the people. Buggy Burger. Yep. Check out some comments here. Wife talk. Oh, what's up, dude? Yeah, wife talk's gonna be coming back. I was trying to book my wife for wife talk, but she was sick. So yeah, so we scratched it. But actually asked her tonight if she'll do it. And she said, yeah, but she's also worried. Um, she's worried that like I'm gonna put her on the spot or throw her under the bus or stuff like that. So, but like I just, I like talking. I can talk to her about stuff and we can argue about some stuff. But she's worried about what I'm going to ask her. But anyway, speaking of Herb, and I actually heard this today. That Herb. So here's what happens with Herb. I'll text him, and if he's not doing anything, he'll call me back within 5 seconds of the text. So I texted him. I don't know, maybe like I think I just had put my kids down, and I texted him. Immediately he called, and I wasn't gonna pick. I sometimes I pick up. I wasn't picking up tonight because I had stuff I still had to go do rather than talk to him. So he told me that he let Jack Fritz have it today. But everybody can confirm that. I guess that's what you're talking about there, Jack. Yeah, let me read Herb's text here. He said, "Can't believe Lions blew up second half. I let Jack Fritz have it today." As you would expect, the punctuation isn't there, no capitalization, but the spelling's actually fine. I don't know if that's because of autocorrect or what, but he is yeah, so he texted me back. So he said that he can do it sometime this week. But I mean, listen, I agree. I actually agree with you, Nick, that obviously Herb knows Fangio. So like has Herb spoken to him, and is he going to is he gonna share some of the secrets? Are they gonna work together to get the Eagles defense back? Yeah, we'll find out. So Jack puts Herb down. All right. So and I haven't heard it, but but I can just say with Herb, sometimes I go back and listen to the show sometimes, and sometimes I would listen back to it and say like, all right, I sounded like a dick today with Herb because I feel like sometimes people want that. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes you almost have to be a dick just to make it funny. Otherwise, it's the same thing. But there were times that like Ike's wife Renee used to say that I was mean to Herb a lot, and when he would say that, I'd be like, I feel bad because Herb's Herb, but uh, but yeah. So sometimes it's you don't realize that you're putting him down or you're being mean, but yeah, Herb will be okay. All right, so Jack is getting. So I have seen a lot of this. I haven't because my response back to people that DM me about it, I'll just say like leave him alone. All right, he's fine. Leave him alone because he is now driving the show, and it's not for a week when I'm off, or it's not for a day or two when I'm off. He's driving the show, and there's a learning curve to it. And Jack's as talented as anybody I've ever worked with, and he will figure it out. Now, Spike's coming in. I don't even know when Spike's coming in full time, but Jack will figure it out. But I guess what a lot of people are saying is that he's cutting people off and he's mean and he's condescending and all this other stuff. Um, yeah, I mean it's a change. Anytime that you're moving into a new situation from a host perspective or from a listener perspective, because that's everybody out there that's watching this right now, right? It's different. So you're going to get pushback on it. You had a show that you liked before, and then now it's not happening anymore. And now you bring in a new host, or it's somebody else that's driving, or there's a different dynamic. It takes time to get used to. So just give it a little bit of time. Spike's going to come in. I think that's going to be a really, really fun show and a really, really good show. So it takes time. I've worked with a lot of partners. I worked with as a producer. I worked with. I'll just start with Mike Missinelli, and then I was solo, and then I worked with Tony Bruno. I worked with Brian Baldinger. This is as a host. I worked with Sean Brace. I worked with Anthony Gargano. I worked nights at WIP, and then I worked with Ike. And each show is different. Each show you kind of have a different personality. With Anthony, I had a different personality than with Ike. With Mike Miss, I had a different personality than with anybody else. The easiest on-air job that I ever have had was when I worked with Mike Missinelli. Because Mike didn't mind being the bad guy. Didn't always want to be the bad guy, but Mike didn't mind putting the opinion out, and he's very easy to play off of, Mike. It was so much fun working on the air with Mike. He's very easy to play off of. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to set you up as a second mic and a producer. So but still, there's a learning curve. And then when you go to being a person that drives the show, that's much different than when you can kind of pick and pop. You know what I mean? When you're Jack, you can come in and have a wise ass comment here and a wise ass comment there, and you can fight with a caller, or you can give your opinion. Like the Eagles should lose the game. It's better for the great of good for the team or whatever. But then you're not back on the air for another couple minutes, right? So it's a much different dynamic. And the only way that you learn that is by doing it. I'm excited to see how the show develops. Really. So that's should be interesting. You got a big head, Jack Fritz? Well, he's always had a big head. It's just a large melon, size 7 and 3/4. And audience is different too for each slot. You're right. Like Joe DeCamara and John Ritchie's midday audience is a much different audience than afternoon drive. Different callers, different style of callers, right? Each show is always different. So this show, even though it's afternoons, this show is going to be different. Even though Ike's there and Jack's there and Spike's there, it's going to be different. I think it's a good thing too. Right to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Spike's gonna have to do 4 hours, 5 days a week. It's a much different thing, and he'll do it. Spike used to, even though it was music radio, Spike was the music director and the midday guy at YSP. You're not talking for 43 minutes a night, but you're talking. My man Justin, who is a now retired radio veteran from the island of Oahu, formerly KCC and FM 100, and a big Eagles fan, biggest Eagle fan on the island. Yeah, you don't learn this, and I didn't really learn anything in Temple, but yeah, you can't learn it in school. Sometimes you just have to have what we call good radio instincts. Is Jack going to be behind the glass? I don't know. From what I saw, it seemed like it was being like he's the third. He's officially a co-host. Does that mean that he's going to be off the board? I mean, for years I asked them for another person. See, and the thing that always made me mad was that the carrot was dangled in front of me, where it was like, well, beat Mike and we'll get you another person on the show, because at the time it was Ben Livingston as the producer. He had the screen calls. He had to jump on the air, which he did far less than Jack did. He had to podcast. He was supposed to be cutting sound during the show, right? So that's not normal to have on a show be that successful on a station like WIP. You should have more than a producer that's working and nobody in the back answering phones or helping out with sound. So it was dangled. If you win, we'll get you another guy. And then we won. And it was like, well, keep winning. You get another guy. But then the financials and radio changed, and we don't need to get into that to make the people at WIP hate me even more than they already probably do. But then the dynamics of the financials change, and it's like, we're never going to get that. So if they get a fourth person, but Jack wouldn't be like cutting sound or anything like that. I just wanted a part-time producer to work on the show. So Jack didn't have to worry about all that stuff, and they could do it. So I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be with Jack. I mean, it seems like that maybe he's going to be moved off the board. Yoshi from Brewery Town. I love Yoshi. I could actually text him right now and tell him people are asking for him. Yeah, I miss so many of the and the tough part of leaving is leaving the show dynamic, which is not only Ike and Jack, and really everybody at the station. It's an awesome place to work. It really is. The culture is amazing. But also, I mean, the listeners. I'm not even going to say the callers, because I talk to the callers, but the listeners, the people out there that you're companions with. That's the difficult part of leaving. But I miss it. I do. I miss that part of it. Now, do I miss Do I miss enough to want to be driving in every day? And no, I don't miss that at all. But at like 1:50 every day, there's something that goes off in my head to where I look up at the clock and I'm like, oh, I'd be about to go on the air right now, which is pretty interesting. It's also like when you do radio, at least with me, and I have a like a mathematical mind. I was never good at geometry, but I was always very good with numbers. And if I play a lot of cards, a lot of card games. And when I play a lot of cards, when I try to go to sleep at night, I close my eyes and I just see the cards. And not even just talking about blackjack, gin, whatever. But so like the clock, a radio clock. So this honest to God, like we usually break at like 2:21. We broke at 2:21. At 2:21, there's something that goes off of me, and I look at the clock and it's 2:21. Like the break times are instilled in my mind and my body still, even after not doing the show anymore. It's like I want to send it to break when I'm doing dishes at 2:51. I don't want to be late for the break. And no, listen, Rios developed, and this is where I think we should get a lot of credit at Marks and Reese and Jack developing Rios, and Rios ultimately gets the credit. When I left, Ike declared him the number one caller on the show, and it was hard to argue. He was on a run. Rios was. He was on a big time run. What happened with Chuck? I guess this is where I need to get my information on the show. I was on with Blackbeard. Blackbeard came on last week, and I didn't want to ask him about. I don't know if he's in particular a big fan of Chuck. So I'm actually going on his podcast tomorrow night with Mad Mike, the Black Gritty, me and Mad Mike tomorrow night on many of these same CBS Sports radio stations or on YouTube. I mean, but yeah, what's going on with Chuck? Can I have an update on Chuck from Mount Airy? The last I heard was obviously where he got banned from the show for F-bomb and Jack. We talked about that on here. Has Chuck called back in, or is he? Because he has my number. He would text me before, but he didn't text me a lot. He texts Ike more than he texts me. So Chuck's calling the other shows, but he's not calling afternoons. All right. Chuck's good, but he's erratic. I learned that when we got into it over something, and he wanted to fight me, and he really wanted to fight me. And the Chuck's not a guy that you want to fight. So there you go. Well, I mean, do we want to do the hype got to Chuck? Chuck was loving himself some Chuck there for a while. And he was telling everybody about it too. So he calls the other shows, but he hasn't called back in to Marks and Reese, to afternoons with Jack and Ike. Oh man, yeah, Andy from Deptford. Andy's been DMing me on Instagram, but I don't answer that. I don't look at his DMs because I decided I wasn't going to a long time ago. So we'd fight often, and then he would like yell at me on Instagram. So I was just like, nah, like I can't do it. I'm not going to look at it anymore. So, all right. Well, listen, it's been fun. We will we'll reconvene this week, and Herb from Northeast is gonna find us at some time. Mediation with Chuck. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Caller entitlement's real. Since you left, the top 5 callers have been talking down to Jack. Oh boy. I gotta get Yoshi on because Yoshi will want to talk about these subjects. That's a great idea to get Yoshi on. I love like Black Gritty I'm friends with. A lot of these guys I'm actually friends with now. I love Yoshi. Yoshi is awesome. We are very similar, believe it or not. Yoshi and I are very similar personalities and very similar as people. So it's awesome. But anyway, I'm going to stop looking at the comments. It's been fun. So I'll do more of these this week. And I'll do more of these this week. It's either going to be during the day, or it'll be 9 p.m. at night. It just depends. It's nap time at 1 o'clock if I got something going on at night, or it's 9 p.m. after I put the kids to sleep. So look for it and just subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, at John Marks Media. Thank you so much for everybody, because I have like almost, I think, 1,050 subscribers now. And this is the first time I've ever done YouTube. So yeah, the only time I've ever done YouTube. And people said it to me for years, you should do a YouTube show. And it's like, well, I'm not really allowed to do it because they're going to tell me, well, if you want to do something, you have to do it with us. But like, man, doing 24 hours a week of radio because I would do the weekend show. Last thing I feel like doing is fucking around and doing something on YouTube. Well, I have more time on my hands now, and I enjoy it as an outlet. So subscribe, Instagram, well, on YouTube, subscribe, but then follow me Instagram, Twitter if you're not already following me. And thank you so much. Thank you for the support. Again, the website, and actually, you can also, it's shopeverylittle.detail.com, and that's the Instagram address right there. So that's how you can support the show and support my wife as she ventures in the business. And she is amazing stuff. So just check it out. Check it out. All right, everybody, have an excellent evening, morning. If you're watching this not live, then hope you enjoyed it. See you.